We are live.
We are. I didn't know that.
Just started.
Woo!
What day?
Baby, don't you do. Woo! I feel like it's been quite some time since I've been here.
Yeah,
It's been quite a while.
someone is in there. Yeah, remember. I can't see who's in there.
I'm home, baby! Oh, man. I'm excited.
Welcome to another
You cut that so
episode
short. Why you just let that ride
of
for a while?
Average Black Man. We only got an hour.
So let it rock.
So welcome. Man, it has been a while because we were off for 2 weeks, then we were going to week. So it has been a while, man.
Yeah. I feel like it's more than that.
But we're back, man. We post vacation.
Yep. Post vacation.
So we're back in the house, man. You got yours truly, Chris Bender Sr.
Chris Jr. Excited to be back for what is going to be a tremendous episode of Above Average Black Man, where we're here to empower, inspire, and uplift the community. Yes.
Devin Pender just here to remind you to like, follow, subscribe, and share. We just want to interact with y'all. Just want to talk more with y'all. Give us some topics.
Yeah. We need more energy from you guys. Like, we need y'all to start sending us questions, comments, like topics. Like he said, this show is community based. It's not just all about us. So
And share with your friends, your family, anyone that's wants some wholesome, good content.
wholesome.
Up there, you can see comedy. And we will have a live phone number next week.
Yes.
I just got to get it situated. We're getting closer and closer, man. But anyway, what we're going to talk about tonight is, tonight's topic is we're going to talk about why is it that when it comes to our community, all too often athletes are considered the leaders.
Athletes and entertainers.
Rappers, comedians.
Yeah.
So that's going to be the topic of discussion tonight.
Yeah.
And I think somebody gave somebody gave a good example in the chat this morning.
That was me. It's like they don't ask Tom Brady about his political views or stance or what's going on in their community when it comes to some of the issues that they may have on our counterpart's side.
He had a red hat and they lost their mind. Like, he had the red hat in his locker.
But that's as far as it gets. He just can wear a hat, to represent. But like
He had a red hat.
Yeah, the Trump hat, make America great again. But like,
too funny.
Yeah, but again, when it comes to our community, it's like two sides of it. I feel like for one, maybe a little bit of media, social media, any type of media, they kind of highlight these people in that regard. They ask them those questions and then kind of make it our representation. And then part of it is ourselves too, where we kind of looking for them to have those voices, and sometimes people aren't equipped to necessarily do that.
But there's a historical, I guess I could say preference that goes with this, because when it comes to our community, it's always been like that. Because you don't remember, but when I was growing up, it was a church. When somebody wanted to get elected, they would go to the black church. They wouldn't go into the community; they would go to the church and talk to the pastor in the hopes the pastor would kind of get the congregation to go along. That's been so in our community. It's been always somebody who people deemed was the leader that was going to steer the flock or the people in the right direction. When people wanted to get stuff done, they would go to certain people because these are the people that had the influence that would go back to the community, and get the community to do it.
Yeah, I mean, but that's a great point to even start at. Maybe is that where it initially was, or where it began was the church, and I can see that because that makes sense. Like, they're actively in the community. You could probably go down the street and your pastor's right there. The congregation is right there. So it's like they're in tune with what you are going through. Not to say that athletes aren't necessarily in tune, but a lot of them are in a different place.
Different tax bracket.
Well, I mean, but it became increasingly more difficult to do the church because a lot of churches are no longer community churches now. It's not like the church is on the corner and everybody in the neighborhood goes to that church.
Yeah.
Most churches now draw from across the city.
Right.
So the impact is a little different.
Yeah.
I think the second way you have to look at it is, I think pastors now are a little harder to control. You know what I mean?
How so?
They're a little more checked because they're a lot more educated. They have a lot of churches who create their own resources. So I don't need you to do something for me to get something done because I can get it done because I got doctors, lawyers, architects. I got sitting right in my congregation.
People giving us money already.
So the financial influence that you had that was often used is no longer there. Mm-hmm. A lot of pastors now, to your favorite topic, with social media and different things, they don't need someone else to put them on a platform.
No,
they don't need that now. So I think those things have changed. I think the flip side of it is, if you pick an athlete, you have a little more control because the chances of an athlete falling is greater. And then now if he doesn't do what I want him to do, I can knock him off his horse.
Right.
So I think that's the flip side of choosing an athlete. And I think that's why so many people have issues with LeBron James, because they can't, if you don't like him, you don't like him, but you can't find things wrong with him.
Right.
And that creates a problem because now I can't discredit him if he says something I don't like.
Yeah, and I feel like we can't necessarily have this conversation or discussion because without, speaking to I would say Muhammad Ali, who was kind of at the forefront of being an athlete and being about social justice. But then I also know times were very different then.
Like him, Jim Brown, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, and all them. I still remember that picture of them with Muhammad Ali,
Bill Russel.
Well,
I mean, Muhammad Ali kind of was man. He was unique and different in a lot of ways. And I'm gonna give you two sides of the coin with him. One, he wasn't fully embraced because of Islam,
right?
Because you still had a lot of African Americans who didn't understand Islam, and it was still a lot of us versus them within the Black community. Mm-hmm. Islam versus Christians, so it was a little different. But to the point, that's the way they wanted it. Because if I can keep the Christians and Martin Luther King fighting against Malcolm X, and those people, they don't focus on the bigger cause, which is the evil that's happening to all of us. Mm. So that became an issue. And if you notice, they tried to discredit Martin Luther King.
Yeah.
They were going to tear him down. They did the same thing to Malcolm X. They couldn't do Muhammad Ali because he didn't care. He was like, I don't care. And he was brash. He was confident. He was cocky.
He was witty though.
He wasn't intimidated by the system.
Yeah.
So it was different. So they weren't going to brand him a leader unless it was in a negative way. Mm. And I think that's what you come across in America is like, I'll pick a leader because that's a guy, I can kind of have some control over. That's a guy I can kind of, don't say this, don't say that, or say it this way versus you get the wrong person. Like, LeBron James says stuff. He does. And he's.
But then at some point, it's like he still kind of plays it easy sometimes, because he got a brand and all that stuff to kind of protect.
Yeah, like he's not saying anything that someone would deem controversial or too much on this side, too much on the other side. Like you said, he's still worried about losing them brand.
He knows how to push the envelope. Yeah, and I'm not defending him, but I'm just saying is I go back to when if you look at when this whole Black Lives Matter thing started, and you had Dwayne Wayne and Carmelo Anthony and those guys taking a stand. That doesn't happen. It didn't happen in the NFL.
Right. Yeah, I know for sure.
And it doesn't happen, 10, 15 years ago. Mm-hmm. And I think part of it is because those was guys that you really couldn't find a blemish on at that time. You couldn't paint and say this guy was out clubbing, robbing, cheating. So it was, you couldn't really tear them down. Right. They were model citizens in the NBA. They weren't getting in fights. They weren't getting a bunch of texts. They were playing the game the right way. You couldn't get it for doping. So those guys were never going to be say you're the leader.
Yeah.
And this is a statement that I know people I'm gonna get slammed for, but that's why Michael Jordan was up there because he never did anything or said anything controversial. Mm. He was the poster child for the NBA because he never said.
I just cared about basketball.
Yeah, and that was his focus. And there was even a time when they talked about it because when they asked him about politics, Republicans, a lot of racist stuff was going on, he was like, well, everybody buys sneakers. So again, it was about his brand. Mm-hmm. So you had guys back then who did not, Magic Johnson, those guys weren't. They were. It was a different era back then.
I mean, but then even from just outside of the sports realm, like I'm just thinking about when it's time to vote. Like you brought up the church previously. You remember the campaign with Diddy?
I was just thinking that the voter died.
Voter died. Like not even giving nobody any decent information on how to choose or what you should be looking for.
What's your opinion of who you vote for? Like, what's your opinion on the candidates? It's just vote or die.
Right. So it's just my question again is like I don't understand sometimes why we look to these people. It's probably easy to do it because we see them all the time and the money.
Because we don't look at quality. We don't look at quality anymore. We look at status. We don't dig deep and say, okay, what's the quality of the person that's selling me this message? We don't look at, okay, what's this, what's the character of this person?
Right.
We just look at, he sold a bunch of records. I mean, and I don't want to beat up a dick, but I look at, we had, only in America would you see some of the people in political office that make political office. You got, Trump was president, man. Guy had no experience. He was bankrupt more than anybody else in America.
The Turbinator was the governor.
Yeah, but I want to get back to what I'm saying. But that's how we pick leaders, and even that's what they do to us in our community. They don't like. This is going to be a controversial one. Like Al Sharpton is not my leader. I never voted for Al Sharpton to lead me anywhere. I don't agree with all his views. But yet he's the guy that they got Reverend Al whenever something because he speaks for all and he doesn't.
Yeah, I guess my question, like, how and why does that happen?
Because he fits the criteria. They know he's not going to push the envelope but so far.
Right. Yeah.
It's like when the news used to come into the black community. It could be 35 articulate people standing in the corner. They're going to find Shaniqua with the scarf on her head. With this cursing, and that's who they want to interview. Wow, because that's how they want to portray it. And I think even some people do it subconsciously, not realizing, like, I'm not going to talk to people who may give me an intellectual answer or a logical response. I'm going to talk to somebody who I can get a calculated answer from. And I want people to see that's who represents, because that's who I see a group of people. So I think some people do it. They don't even do it on purpose. I think just subconsciously, man, that's, that's going to be the speaker. And I'm not picking on Al Sharpton, but I never voted for Al Sharpton.
No,
I think Al Sharpton don't know me, don't know my needs, but all of a sudden, every time something happens, he rushes and put it on TV. Yeah. It's the same thing with the lawyer who Trayvon Martin knows all that stuff.
Now he's everywhere.
He's everywhere. He don't represent that's not everybody's point of view.
So then how do we, I guess, start to kind of shift that, you know what I mean, where we kind of move away from giving these athletes so much, or not, I don't even want to keep saying athletes, but these people who are constantly in front of us. Status. Yeah, it's really about status. Like, how do we change that?
I think it starts, and this is crazy what I'm gonna say. It starts at the grassroots, man. It starts with, when I grew up and I played sports, and I was pretty good at sports. I liked certain professional athletes, but they weren't, I didn't have giant posters up on my wall, because of, my dad, and I knew people who could talk to me and have conversations with me, and that's what's missing now. We're encouraging people to be a fan of this person who you're never going to meet, never going to talk to.
I mean, it's okay to be a fan, like
but not to the point where you're obsessed with something.
Right.
I think, I give you the perfect example. I did an exercise today with the kids in class. I had them write their own obituary. Everybody does that when I say
write your own obituary.
Yeah, I know.
That's dark.
It's very dark.
How old are these kids?
They're 9th, 5th, and 11th grade.
Oh man, all right. Hey, you're 6 years old. Think about this.
No, let me explain the exercise and I'll tell you, and it ties in what we're talking about.
I understand, because people
I told them, put when they were born, but they could decide when they were going to die. They could decide they're going to live to 20, 30, 40, 50. They got to choose, and they got to write their obituary. And it was interesting, as we talked through the process and talked about different things, and the purpose, the reason why I did it was what we're talking about. I wanted them to see their life, see the influences in their life. I wanted them to see how they were living their life and what it meant and how they got to these points in making decisions in their life. What it was going to look like at the end of the road whenever it came to it. And most people never have that moment to look at that. We just allow people to lead us and tell us what we're supposed to be. And I even gave an example. I remember growing up in the hood where I would be in the classroom when they would say, hey, every number 3 stand up. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. All you guys stand up. 1 out of 3 y'all gonna go to prison. That was because that's what was supposed to be.
Right.
Yeah. So and a lot of people went to prison. Because so I'm saying, if you grow up somewhere and you're constantly being bombarded with a leader, you fall into the category, man. And we're not teaching our kids to lead themselves. We're not teaching our kids to go through the process of evaluate who you follow. We no longer do that.
So in other words, I feel like you're saying that we need more like independent thinkers or people that are thinking for themselves.
But you got to develop people into that. People don't, we start out as a kid. You start out kind of you go through these stages. Right? You get to a point where first, you mimic stuff, and then you get to a point where you're exploring. They tell you it's hot, you still try to touch it. You know what I mean? They tell you still trying to figure stuff out. Because at that stage, you're really an independent thinker.
Right.
What happens is you start to be molded back to follow the rules. Don't touch it. Don't do it. When I say do this, don't. So the problem with it is people continue to grow. We don't give them that space to redevelop their own mindset now.
Right.
And you got to figure, even in school, they're not teaching these kids to think independently, man. They're not teaching these kids, to be individuals, to think about themselves in that mindset. Everything is collective now.
So to me, it's like, so whose responsibility is it for to assist the kids? Like, how do we change that way of thinking?
I mean, it's easy to say parents because it should be parents' number one responsibility.
But then it's like generations of generations.
Yeah, I say you can't, but you can't teach what you don't have. But I also think there's enough people who realize what's going on where it has to become, you have to change the educational system.
Yeah.
You have to change people and you have to challenge people. Like, when I was at All Stars, we did an election. We did a mock election. We had candidates run and give a speech. We taught kids, listen to what they're saying. And, we had people say stupid stuff to see if the kids would pick up on it. Like, you would have lunch every day, all day,
every day,
some
all
kids
day,
like, that's it. But then some kids will realize that's not, so you got to start teaching. You have to start teaching. You got to start investing in the next generation. And we have to stop thinking it's not one dimensional. It's not, even though it's the parents' responsibility, it has to become a multi-faceted tool now because some homes is just not going to happen. Schools got to start to pick up the slack. However, you've got teachers who are like that themselves.
Yeah.
So it's going to come from different places. I know people who graduate college who are not that bright when it comes to being an individual thinker. You still got to lead them, for lack of a better term, like a fish.
Yeah. Well, I mean, devil's advocate here, just playing the other side of this. Like, let's say, I think sometimes it is okay to look at, people in those positions for answers because, they obviously have a platform, right? Like, they could be doing something beneficial or saying something of benefit.
They could.
Like the world is flat.
so no, I say, but to me, and
I ain't mean that. No shots at Kyrie.
No, but see, I think we have to change the way we look at things. Just because we have a platform nowadays does not mean you're qualified. Just because you have a platform nowadays, and my favorite topic lately has been sportscasters. It's these sports announcers, man. And I say it all the time. I challenge them. They don't watch the games. They watch highlights. Because I listen to some of the stuff they say. And this is probably gonna come back to bite me. I'm gonna say this. To me, Stephen A. Smith is like a weatherman. I never seen somebody be wrong so much, and nobody cares. But he's loud and he can be arrogant.
Obnoxious.
Yeah, and he plays the role of what people see a black man. And that's it. That's his slick. That's his thing. That's how he gets paid. And I'm not knocking that, but that becomes a stereotype. That becomes a precedent for everybody else. Yeah. So now, if somebody else comes along and like Ryan Clark, what's wrong with you? Because you're sitting there calm. You try to have an understanding of things. But at the same time, you're not sitting there siding with Jerry Jones and Skip Bayless just because you're sitting there being honest and talking about how it impacts you. So that's what I mean. You can have a platform. There's other people I look at, on TV. Some of these sports guys that no way you watch the game.
Mm-hmm. So that's a question for me too with these people.
I don't mean to just beat up on sports. I
was just saying, like, individuals who have a platform, again, outside of sports, that could be like a TV host, TV announcer, actors. Like,
Okay.
do you think they have a responsibility?
Yeah, but let me ask you a question. Why just because you're an athlete, you get a platform automatically? I don't understand.
I never understood.
You never, like, I don't know Kyrie Irving.
Like you said,
I don't
because
know
they have
Kyrie
a
Irving.
following. That's
But
why.
he's a basketball player.
Because he have a
I'm
following.
not looking at Kyrie Irving to give me a geography lesson, to teach me about history. That's not. So I'm saying, but we put it, and we don't. I think the media does it on purpose. You put him on the platform, like all of a sudden you expect this answer from him. No.
I mean, part of it though too. I always say this. I've been away for quite some time, but social media. It gives everybody have their own thoughts and opinions, and like these guys are in the limelight so much that I think people do generally have an effort to say, "Oh, what is he doing other than dribbling the basketball or acting and being Othello?" And
at the same time, I'm not looking to Charles Barkley for political aspirations or anything like that, and they have him on CNN. You know what I mean?
That's a good
but
point.
That's my point. See, it's one thing to say social media. Anybody can get on social media. So I'm not knocking it. But when you take a guy like that and you start putting him on CNN, you take a guy like Kyrie Irving, and Kyrie Irving. So you can't tell me you don't know what you're going to get when you ask him a question, a certain question. You know the response you're going to get. So you do that on purpose. And the problem is, he is not that he has a platform to speak. They make him the platform for the black. See this is what's wrong with black athletes, and that's not accurate. I think that's the problem. It's we allow them to give certain people platforms, and they determine who they want to put up there. And very seldom do they put somebody up there that represents you in a positive light all the time.
Yeah.
You don't hear, you how many times is Steph Curry on? You didn't ask Steph Curry those kind of questions, man. But you asked Draymond Green.
But I think some of them, they know they won't give the answers.
Well, that's what I'm saying. But you want to ask Draymond Green why? Because he gonna say something crazy. You know that. And then everybody's, you knew it.
We just throwing out names, y'all. We're not saying we really would.
But I'm just saying though, I think so that's why we gotta be careful when we talk about platform. It's one thing to have a space to speak, and I get that because that's America. Mm-hmm. But they put them on a type of platform where they have influence now, and that's the part that's scary. They make him just like all of a sudden Draymond Green has become the spokesman about Draymond Green is not Dennis Rodman. Draymond
spokesman for what? Because I don't know if I missed that.
Well, I mean, whenever something happens in the NBA or now any sport, that's who you hear from. The Skip Bayless thing. Why are you interviewing Draymond Green about what Skip Bayless said about football? I'm just saying that's become because he's a soundbite. Mm. He's a soundbite. Whether you like it or not, he has a legitimate platform now where he's a voice that people listen to.
Yeah, and they won't ask somebody of sound mind that'll give you some thoughtful take.
It's usually the people who are very very emotional,
Yes.
Yeah, no one that's like Steph Curry, for example, he is gonna put some logic in there.
Give you a mild answer and not necessarily get too.
But then you get upset when somebody like LeBron James responds and says, "Well, I didn't hear you asking about this question." Why you asking me? Or why aren't you asking me about this? So I think that's what I meant about the platform that they choose a platform and they say they want to put a platform. The problem with us is we accept it. Yeah. We accept it, and then we get upset. Like I know who Charles Barkley is, so I don't get upset when he says stupid stuff. I know who Stephen A. Smith is. I know he's going to say something that that's who he is,
and doesn't necessarily represent all.
But we fall in line with it. That's the problem.
Why do you think some of these people are so comfortable getting up there and acting like they are the voice for all of us?
Same money, man. They're getting paid. It's a brand, but it's a different type of brand. They know they're not making money off of sneaker deals. They're not making. If Stephen A. Smith showed up from now on and sat on the set and acted calmly, he probably wouldn't last another 6 months on TV. He'd be gone. Mm-hmm. If he stopped shouting and screaming and acting all crazy and acting like a fool, he would be over and done. Because he doesn't. I mean, and I'm not picking on him. It's not like he's bringing a lot of substance to these conversations. Like I'll watch him talk about something. I'm like, yo, did you even watch the game? Mm-hmm. He's a bad boy. Yeah. Just like, how do you pick? Seriously, who in America will pick TCU to beat Georgia? Come on, man. Anybody knows anything about football? And then, come on, man. You can't tell me that was you really legitimately thought that was going to happen.
Yeah. I mean, so kind of related to that, I would say that's
just one instance.
That's crazy. So even knowing that these people just clearly are giving hot takes or just saying like
Perfect. That's it though.
Hot takes.
That's it. That's the perfect thing that you just said.
yeah, like it's clearly these people are giving hot takes. They're in these positions to just bring in more views.
All right, let me ask you a question. We all know a whole lot of people. You agree, right?
Yes.
Anybody out there listening, Wayne, you know a whole lot of people.
Some people.
No,
yeah,
so let me ask you a question. Why is it that election time, they always got this voice of the black people, but nobody ever knows who they talk to? Nobody knows who the black people. Who you talking to? Well, you hear this.
That's the point that I
Yeah.
kind of made early on here is that like these people are put in these positions to be a voice for us, but like it's like how many people have you spoken with?
Well,
within
we
the
allow
last
it because
day
we
or
don't
so?
we allow it because when somebody comes to us and says, "This is what Al Sharpton says," no one ever says, "Well, he doesn't speak for me." Nobody says that. They just get their opinion. This is what Steve. Nobody ever says, "Well, they don't speak for me."
Yeah.
They don't represent me and my family.
But I don't think enough of us. I think that's actually a good point too.
Yeah.
That it's on us. Not enough of us are being like, "Oh, this doesn't represent me." We still keep watching. We be tuning in, like giving our support half the time, most of the time.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like,
Or we feed into the rhetoric. We feed into it, man, and it becomes to me, some of the stuff that they go back and forth about it's not that big a deal to me. We got bigger fish to fry.
Mhm.
And I like the football player, Lamar Hamlin, who got and I forget the Jason Whitlock. Was it Jason Whitlock? Or somebody came out. No, some idiot came out and
is
said
he black or white?
black guy. It was the offensive
I'm
guy's
going to
fault.
assume Whitlock.
No, it wasn't somebody. So the point so instead of this dude is dying, could possibly die, and we sitting there trying to figure out this
All this
stupid
other stuff,
and that's what we do. So we purposely, people who don't look like us, they want that to happen because it's constantly distract us from the big picture, and it sells. It creates controversy. Everybody in the country is praying for this guy to live, but you got 3 or 4 people, Skip Bayless and a couple other people, who throwing rocks, but it distracts everybody from the bigger picture. And whether it's politics, whether it's economics, that's how you keep control.
So again, kind of my question: do you think it's possible to, which I'm sure it is, like to kind of be a fan of somebody and like not respect their views or opinions? Like, like we're talking about sports and acting and all that stuff. Like, I think that's where people kind of cross that line sometimes. It's like because they feel like, oh, I'm a fan that they made this movie, they're on this show. It's like they feel like they gotta fall in line.
And I could probably name a bunch of people who I say that I don't respect their opinions, but I respect their.
Oh, that's the Wayne for me. Oh my goodness. I'm sorry, guys.
I was
told
on
that. I love this game.
Wait. And I could go down this list of people. I'm a huge Donovan McNabb fan of his work, but the way he goes about other things, some of the stuff he says, I just don't agree. I just think he's just told, again, and I say it, for a guy that's won nothing, you shouldn't be so critical of people. Ain't like you sitting there with 5 championship rings, you got 5 misses. So I'm just saying, there's a couple other people. I think Terrell Owens, she was probably one of the best football players ever. But outside of football, dude, I just don't, but pound for pound, he could play. He would be a superstar in today's game.
He really would.
He was in today's game. He'd be marking people.
At his age.
At his age, he probably going to. So I do. There are some people who I think, I'm not a huge Snoop Dogg fan. I am. But I like some of his music.
Yeah.
Now, as he's got old, he's kind of mellowed
That's
out.
what I'm saying.
But I'm just saying. So there's people. I think there's people you can say, man, I appreciate this guy's work, but I just don't. Their point of views. Like I appreciate what Stephen A. Smith does. The way he does it, I got an issue with. But you know what? I appreciate the fact that what he found a niche for himself. He found a way to create a niche that nobody else has. He found a way to take what was negatively portrayed about us. Because if you got on the show that you were invited on, you acted like that, you wouldn't be invited back. If somebody invited you on the show and you started going all that screaming, they would, and he turned it into a whole shit. So I respect that. But the other side of the coin is you thinking it's okay with Jerry Jones and the Skip Bayless thing. I got a problem with that.
And that's what I'm saying.
So I do. So I think you can go down a list of people who I say, what's the dude on the show speak?
Speak for yourself.
No, Speak. He's the guy with the box cut with Shady and all them.
He used to play for the Eagles.
Yeah,
The linebacker.
yeah.
Oh,
Can't think of
yeah.
his name.
Yeah.
I like the show, but he said some stuff.
Emmanuel,
Yeah,
But
But he said some stuff like, "Yo, man, you know what were you drinking last night?" You know,
But
so,
again,
so
like, these
but
guys-
I like the show.
He
and
getting
I- and
commercials,
and
doing spoken word, and like
he brings
he's the
good
voice.
So I do. So I respect that aspect of it. So, but but is that a guy that I would say I'm gonna go see? No. That's honestly, I say to myself, I would love to be on this show to debate with them just for like 10 minutes. Like 10 minutes. But I mean, so you can.
But you brought this point up earlier, and this is specifically for like the rappers and entertainers. A lot of them feel like they really are like the voice of the black people.
You
and
hear them
things
say
like that. Like, why is that?
I'm the voice of the people.
When like their music is so much about murder, death, and destruction.
Well, because
or even the roles that some of these actors
Yeah.
take.
working
It's not
with kids,
represented us.
and hearing what some of the kids say, you know what? They think they're living their lives through these rappers because kids growing up in the hood think this rapper is representing what they see every day, not realizing the rapper may not have seen it at all, but they do. So for them, he's just talking about the way I'm living my life. And he's making it famous the way I'm living my life. Now I got something to kind of be proud of, because everybody's talking about this. So yeah, to them he becomes an icon. He becomes a spokesman. Now the person who getting shot, getting robbed, no, he's not the spokesman. So I think it's like when the exercise today, and one of the kids wrote that he wants to say he's nice, and he was a good trapper, And I'm thinking to myself, like, that's what you want your mom and dad. And he wanted to die for his mom and dad. That's what you want your mom and dad to hear. And then I had to stop and think, like, them, you work these rappers. He's buying into that.
Yeah.
So they do become the spokesman for some people, because it's like, especially if you think somebody is related to you and nobody is related to you. I finally got somebody who understands me. I don't go to school where I'm out there robbing people and somebody's rapping about it, justifying it. Oh, he gets me.
Yeah, but to your point, like you said, most of these dudes really weren't living that life,
You know that, I know that.
They may have they may have had a family member that was doing that and they just rapped what they saw.
Yeah. But it's also how some people, that's why like some people don't blow up because they don't have those crazy messages. And then some people have crazy, like, I'm not a huge Meek Mill fan, only because I'm just not into the music. But you hear the amount of good he does in the community. True.
Yeah.
You hear the amount, he helped build those courts down there by the Discovery Center, Strawberry Mansion. He's giving back to the community. I don't know if you know, but over Christmas time, there were, I think, like 15 females, moms who couldn't make bail. He posted bail. So he does a lot of good stuff.
That's a good person to talk about.
Yeah, so I'm just saying, he does a lot of good stuff. But his face ain't all over billboards and people not talking about him. And, but when he was in jail, oh man, everything
started talking about.
That's all you heard about. So I think so we help. We in the media, and I don't want to start bashing the media. They build these images for our kids, and our kids think it's cool. They're not talking about the stuff Meek Mill's doing. They're not talking about how he turned his life around and the things he's doing. They
But they'll blast his songs. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
like the ones that he's talking
makes,
about anything of what he does.
But that's the image they want to portray. That's the image they want to portray.
So I guess who's responsible for more so highlighting those positive things? Because again, I think it's a fine line here where it's like, man, again, these guys have like these positions that they worked hard to obtain. Some of them, like, they do good, like Meek Mill, but then like nobody really talks about all the positive things. You don't really know it unless you're probably from the city.
Yeah, okay, but that's my point. I found out. A little update came across my phone.
No, Strawberry Mansion, you done work there. That's how you know.
Well, I know about Strawberry, but I mean the ladies in parole or helping them out with bail. That little thing update came across my phone. He got more play when he rode the 3-wheeler with the Fanatic at the Phillies.
Yeah.
So what I'm saying is, but we've allowed them to not have him. But somebody else that kills 15 people becomes a spokesman for our community. That's what we do. And we have to take control of the narrative. We got to stop letting the media say, this is my spokesman, this is control. I don't need you coming down here talking to the worst guy in my neighborhood representing my neighborhood, because it's not. Right? Mm-hmm. That's not who my neighborhood is. That's not who my community is. Mm-hmm. Y'all laugh and joke when I talk about North Philly, but North Philly is not filled with all bad people. It's just hot. It's just hot. Because I always say when I grew up down there, we had kind of
more context there.
We had things that we just didn't do. You didn't rob somebody's mom. That didn't happen. You could fight each other all day long, but you didn't shoot and kill your best friend. You fought and it was over. It's a different animal now. So what I'm saying is there's still a lot of good people left, and they highlight the crazy.
So do you think it's positive to create or have a shift where we stop looking at certain individuals in those positions?
Yeah.
And how will we do that?
This is one platform, right, which is why I got involved in this show in the first place, because this is a platform right here when people can see, a father and his two sons in a positive light, not cussing at each other.
We need to hit the streets too.
Not fussing.
You trying to spread the word.
Yeah, we got people listening like Wayne, who's a good dad, and other guys who, Tyrone from California, when he chimes in, is a good dad. There's a lot of good dads out there, man. Eric, which I got a list of guys out there who take care of business, who people need to know that we exist. Mm-hmm. That we're leaders. I don't need somebody to come tell me, how to be a dad in my house. I don't need somebody, I can lead in my household.
Yeah.
But I produce leaders.
Right. And so, to that point, I think, it's noble to be a good leader in your house. Not to say it's expected, because not everybody does it. But I think, we're in such a dire spot right now where we need to see more of our leaders in our neighborhoods getting beyond just your neighborhood or your home.
I agree. But it comes, the one unique thing about Damar Hamlin, and I said this today when I was talking to the kids, I'm amazed and that the whole country got behind.
Yeah.
I was amazed when the guy on ESPN, people, all of a sudden in football games, everybody's talking about God, man, let's pray for us.
We're not watching, we don't care about the game.
I'm amazed. But then my follow-up to that was, why aren't we like that when it comes to that 6-year-old kid who just shot the teacher in Virginia?
That was crazy.
Over the weekend, the 13th.
That because I never really fully heard that story.
Apparently, he got a gun, and but let's talk. Apparently, he got a gun real quick from his mom. He took it to school, and he pulls it out, and according to the class, he assumed the position, and he shot the teacher, the black with her hand. So, and then there's a 13 and 14-year-old boy who carjacked some mom waiting for her daughter to come out Walmart in King of Prussia, so those are the kind of things that we got. And King of Prussia, she came out Walmart, King of Prussia. This is broad daylight. So the point I'm making is this is how we change. That's the kind of stuff as well that the whole country has to get behind. We got to make a concerted effort, man. How we got to unite, man, and put just like we did, and I applaud for that. We got to put our differences aside, so work on these social ills, because they're not going to get better. And prison is not the answer. And you got a lot of leaders that's just lock them up. That's not rehabilitating anybody.
Yeah.
So what you gonna do? Give a 6-year-old life?
Yeah. And what's even crazy with the Hamlin situation, it does show you
that we can do it.
We can do it. Yeah. But then I think the disheartening and sad part is how almost desensitized you right back to just, he's up.
Let's go back to the money.
He was kind of this.
Well, see, I have disagreed with that. I think probably the business side of the NFL, but as I listen to players now and I listen to stuff, that changed a lot of people. People are seeing this a whole lot different. When I was listening to the Bills and the interviews and the Bills ratings probably went to the roof on Sunday. I've never watched Buffalo play in my entire life, other than but I watched them.
I thought they were going to drop 40 on the Patriots.
Huh?
I thought they were going to drop 40, 50 points on the Patriots.
But what I'm saying, so I do see the landscape changing. I do. I see people, well, at least for now.
Yeah, I was about to say, for how long?
Care. But see, that goes back to what we're talking about. This is what we need leaders to step up and keep it going. This we need people to say, you still need to care about Devin in week 17 next year. We still need to create a sense of unity. It has to carry over, not just because of tragedy. And that's where the real leadership come in, and that's the other problem. We don't even understand real leadership. We follow anybody. That's part of the problem.
I think that's a great point to this topic here. Is the idea of leadership that nobody really knows or understands what that is, and if you have a microphone or you got a following, people automatically assume like, well, you must be a good leader.
What's your definition of a real leader?
Ooh. See, to me, I think it's not just a definition. I think it's characteristics. One, I think a real leader produces other leaders. Mm-hmm. You know, the mark of a leader to me is somebody who produces other leaders, not just always trying to be in charge all the time. Because if you're a real leader and you're pouring into somebody else, they should be better than you because they're going to take their gifts plus your gifts. Mm-hmm. You know, they should go out and do things. And without getting deep and crazy about it, it's biblically based. Jesus poured into the disciples, they went out and did their thing. But, you know, John Maxwell, anybody successful leadership will tell you that. Successful leaders duplicate themselves. Yeah. You know, I think another characteristic of a leader is you care about those who you lead.
Yeah.
You don't have sympathy for them. You don't have empathy for them. You genuinely care about them. Because when you care about people, they usually give you their all. Mm-hmm. It's like when you play sports and you're on a team, man, and everybody buys it. It doesn't have to be the most talented team. But you know what? I look at the Eagles, and I got my helmet right here. Yeah. I look at the Eagles, and I listen to Jalen Hurts, and I listen to the rest of those guys. Yo, those guys just don't want to let each other down. That's all you hear. We don't, yo, I know I got to do this. I know I got to do this, man. We just can't let each other down. But that's the mark of leadership. Now, you can talk about his talent all day long, but he unified that team in a way that we haven't seen in my lifetime. I mean, McNabb didn't have that kind of McNabb. You go back to Randall Coleman, it was offense versus defense. You know, it's never that thing is unified now. Mm-hmm. If you listen to Jalen Hurts, whatever he says, the whole team says. Right. If he makes a comment about, you know, we got to tighten it up, everybody come behind him and say we got to tighten it up. So that's leadership, and because they know he cares. I mean, heck, he bought all his offensive linemen, even the ones in the practice guy, Gucci bags. That's somebody who cares. Mm-hmm. Yo, not just the starters. Everybody. Yeah. Yo, you in the practice squad, I got you. You know, so I mean, that's the second thing. I think the third thing is, man, you can't follow somebody who does not know where they're going. And that's another thing. You got somebody talking in circles and you follow them. You know, if you can't tell me, and we talk about this in your new role, if you can't clearly communicate to me where you're going, I'm not following you.
Right. Yeah.
I can be lost by myself. And a lot of times these people they give us as leaders, they're not leading us anywhere. They say charismatic stuff because they want you to just, follow me. Yeah, I'm following you. Where are we going? I don't know, but just stay tuned. You know, and stay tuned. Yeah, just stay tuned. We're going to get there. As long as I tell you we're going to get there and I don't tell you where we're going, we always going to get there. So I think that's the third thing. And I think the fourth thing is, man, you got to look at the person's character and integrity.
Right. Yeah.
You know, you can't just follow people, because they have titles, because they have a platform, because they have charisma. Because if they rob somebody, chances are they rob you. Yeah. But if they cheat on somebody, chances are they don't cheat on you.
To that point of like somebody that has integrity, it's like we only see what's in front of the camera. You know what I mean? Like we don't know what's going on behind the scenes a lot of times.
Or in their everyday life.
Right, or in their everyday life. Like we see, I see how he acts on the court. I see how he acts in between the lines. We don't never really understand or know like somebody's life.
But you got to pay attention. And you will never ever know everything. But you got sometimes, man, the signs are there. And I don't want to keep picking on Trump, man, because it's too easy. But he's done nothing that he hasn't done in the past, man. I mean, his history is kind of, I as a basketball fan, I love Kyrie Irving, but I'm not surprised. The stuff he does, I'm not like, wow. It's the same thing with Charles Barkley. When he does stuff, I'm like, wow, where did that come? No.
And I think that's funny that Charles Barkley is in because I remember years ago.
I'm not a role model.
I'm not a role model. And now he out here on CNN.
Someone out the window.
And he spit on a kid.
I forgot about that.
But now he out here trying to talk about politics and black people, what they need to do.
But they've given him a platform and somebody felt like he could speak for us. And this is the same guy who at one time was not even talking about racism. It was almost like it didn't exist. But he's become a voice. You go to him, you go to Shaq. They're basketball players, man. They're not politicians.
Too. It's like it's always the guys that's like, well, this doesn't exist or it's not a problem. Like you said, Shaq, Charles, Stephen A. Smith, they be there.
But the problem, the thing with Charles, Shaq, and Stephen A. Smith, you kind of get both ends. Because if they say something you like, you can say yeah. If they say something controversial, well, we knew they were gonna say something stupid anyway. You don't lose there.
So, yeah.
You don't lose it. You always, and I know those three guys, I'm just saying, but you control the narrative there, because if I go to Stephen A. Smith and he says something like, man, he dropped some wisdom, like, wow. And if I go to him and he say something stupid, well, we expect that.
And the part for me, like they talk from a place of where they are.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? They not out here amongst people like you and I, who have to kind of live our lives differently. Like they can walk down the street and somebody's gonna be like, all right, that's Shaq. I'm not gonna treat him like a regular black guy. That's Shaq.
I give Shaq credit because he does actually give back a lot in the community.
Yeah, it's not saying
I wasn't attacking him.
I
wasn't attacking him. I was saying, to me, Shaq is not Bill
Like
Russell.
when we were talking about the cops, that situation. He's like, well, he's a sheriff.
Yeah, and Shaq is not Bill Russell. He's not Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. Somebody has a history of being socially aware of what's going on, whether you agree or disagree. This is the same Shaq and the Fool. I'm just saying, Charles Barkley drinking Mad Dog 2020 on the set. So I'm just saying, these are guys who were notorious for being goofy, and I'm not knocking them. But I'm saying that they don't hold political clout. I would rather talk to Ernie. If I'm watching that show seriously, I'm going to go to Ernie because Ernie's going to give me the best answer. White, black, he's going to give me something well thought out, articulated, and it's going to be honest and fair. Whether you agree or disagree, he's not going to give me something stupid just because he wants to make people laugh
or because they're personal.
Yeah,
like you can look at the broader landscape of things.
Or I'm commenting on something that I'm not going to experience. To your point, people are going to know you, Charles Barkley, wherever you go. So they're going to treat you a little differently.
Yes.
But if you or I walk in there,
it's like, how can you not acknowledge that though?
It's like when we travel together, and I was sharing this with somebody else, and they was like, I never noticed it till you said it. You ever notice how people look at us?
Oh, all right, story. I told you I went to West Palm, and I walked down Worth Ave, and like it was kind of insane how many looks I was getting from people almost breaking their necks trying to figure out like, who am I, or like, what am I doing here?
But the fact that we all that a black family travels together.
That too, in Orlando.
It just blows people. People just can't. The airport people looking at us, man. And, just the whole thing. I mean, I'm not knocking it because we kind of get some special treatment out of the deal. But it's just odd. People just not. When we missed the plane, walked up. Oh, yeah, the Penders, a party of five. It's like it's just odd. People just don't expect that. And now it's a norm to us. I have friends who's a norm too. Why? Because somebody in leadership says that's not normal in the black community. You hear a black person says, well, we got to address this, and there is an issue with fatherhood, but the same issue is in the Caucasian community. It's not just in the black community.
Right. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It's not just in our community. Yeah, but it's just not, we don't own that issue.
No.
And if you really want to look at the crust of that issue, it came from slavery when white people were taking black fathers and selling them and bringing up the family. So I'm not blaming what I'm saying, but that's not what you hear. And you hear black people say it like we own that issue. You hear black people say like we own the issue of welfare.
Badge.
Yeah, like we own it. No, there's just other people on welfare too. Our school system are not bad because of black people. They're bad because people allow them to be bad because black people go there. But when you hear politicians or so-called leaders speak about it, they don't deal with the issues that got it like that. They just talk about the current state, like the people in there made it like that. No, this has been decades in the making of our schools declining, the educational system being poor. The murder rate you see in the city of Philadelphia, people talk about, but no, those things have been, that foundation was laid a long time ago and being built upon. They just didn't wake up one day and it was crazy. But they would make you think, we black people own that problem. And I say this all the time, black people are not bringing those guns into this country like that, man. Black people don't own Smith and Wesson. Yeah, I'm just black people ain't growing cocoa beans and bring cocaine. No, that's not us. No, we are part of we become part of the product in the marketing process. But leadership would have you believe, and then you have some minorities who sign off on both sides of the aisle, who sign off and they give credit to that kind of crazy stuff. So again, we allow them to become our leaders, and we don't do our homework. We don't listen. We don't pay attention to what's unfolding. If you sit here and tell me that you don't like black people, and then 6 months later it's time to get elected, you tell me all of a sudden you like black people, I got a problem with that.
I think that's a great point.
Like the
Well, how many of us do that?
Like looking at this person as a whole and not just a soundbite or a clip or like they're following, doing some homework.
But you also got to,
like, is this something that this person always stood for, or are they just doing this because like it's hot right now?
But I will say this: we also have to stop looking. I think a lot of people are looking for the next Martin Luther King,
Yes.
the next Malcolm X,
Yes.
the next W. Du Bois, in that term, instead of saying, what can I do? We're looking for leaders now. And those leaders were good for that appropriate time. We live in a time now where we're a lot more educated. We have a lot more resources. We have been exposed to a lot more. We don't necessarily got to wait for somebody to lead us, man. We are making decisions collectively. Don't even start. He had this video today, man. I couldn't believe. I don't know. I'm not going to get into that.
Listen, we have to be aware again.
But that's my point. So since you brought him up, somebody sent me this video today, and some lady, some on the Breakfast Club, and I say it, I'm not a Breakfast Club fan. First of all, anybody call themselves Charlemagne the God, I wouldn't even give them 5 minutes of my time. But anyway,
he's another one.
The question, yeah, but they did, because the question came down to, should a black guy ever marry a white woman? And the response was the most idiotic thing. If you can't find one in the United States, go to Africa. If you can't find Africa, go to Canada. If you can't find one in Canada, I'm like, you gotta be kidding me, man. Yeah, how dare you? Yeah. But I'm thinking to myself, like, yo, that is the most idiotic thing I ever heard. And he's screaming and shouting like this is fact. But I guarantee you, there's a portion of people who listen to this nonsense.
Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah. But that's actually
that's
a great point.
But then he says, "Oh, but I'm not talking about you are. You're talking about hate, division, and racism." Oh no, I'm not. But you.
I'm happy you bring him up earlier because he's one of those guys though that is like.
But he's not my leader. He ain't not gonna connect on any level.
Yeah, but he's the one that they're gonna bring on the Breakfast Club because they know he's gonna say something.
He's just Stephen A. Smith of Black.
He got Stephen A. Smith. He like to see this, man. We didn't say his name so much. This thing gonna trend across. It's gonna be trending across the network. I'm not and your cousin.
I'm just saying. No, but
didn't mean that, Sammy. No,
I'm just saying, you don't want to give our names.
No, and I'm just because I'm using the example how we're giving leaders to get to our topic, man, and they're not our leaders. Yeah. They fit for me. When you say that to me, you're giving me somebody who you think should lead me. You're not asking me what kind of leader I need, because I don't need somebody who. And I'm not saying this in a sarcastic way. Yo, I think I'm intelligent enough, articulate enough to have a conversation without screaming and shouting.
Right. Or bashing, feeling like I degrade anybody. Like, yeah.
I may not be, I may not have played in this league for 30, for whatever, but I know enough about sports to watch a football game and give an honest assessment. Like when I hear you say, and Jalen Hurts is only winning because he has talent. Excuse me what I'm about to say. That's the most asinine thing I ever heard in my entire life, because you didn't say it about Joe Montana. You didn't say Joe Montana only won because he threw to Jerry Rice and John Taylor and he had all these Hall of Fame. You didn't say that. And I love Joe Montana, but he threw more 2-yard, 80-yard touchdowns than anybody in the NFL. That little 2-yard slam to Jerry Rice and he won everybody. So I'm saying you didn't say that. You don't say that when Tom Brady, when he was throwing to Randy Moss and all those guys, man, you try to make it seem like he was throwing to nobody. Look at him now. Look at Aaron Rodgers. I don't understand when you say he only won because he has talent. That's the dumbest thing I ever heard. And then you turn around and you look at Dak Prescott, who has more completions probably to the other team in the last since he's been back. And then he has talent. So what's the difference? So Patrick Mahomes is the real MVP. Yo, dude, he has talent. It's not like he out there throwing the 3 little stooges. So I'm saying when I hear people say stuff like that, that tells me, and you're supposed to be the expert. But there's people who hear that and they regurgitate it. Just like Umar or whatever.
Dr. Umar.
So there's people here, and that's to your point, you got a platform, so you must be right.
Yeah.
And you're not right.
Like
these fools preaching hate and the division and all that stuff. Come on.
And I think something you said earlier that kind of is in line where I even think Dr. Umar is rising and kind of in the state that he is, because people are starving for a leader. They're looking for somebody to,
but they're also
tell them
for reality
do or
TV.
like feel some type of way.
But they're also starting for reality TV too. They want both. They want a leader, but they want somebody that's gonna be on that controversial tip.
Yeah, it's like it's odd. It's like you want somebody to lead you, but then you also want somebody to entertain you. That's why Donald Trump did that. You know what I mean? That's why Dr. Umar is like.
Somebody sent me this clip today, and it fits what we're talking about. The clip where Rocky is talking to his son, and his son is is making excuses why he's not success.
Mm.
And Rocky tells him, he says, no, you're not successful because of you. Don't be blaming other people. Somewhere along the line, you allow people to take your finger and make you point it back at yourself.
Master P just said that to me.
You know, and he was saying, well, this is a scene in the movie. He's going there on the street having this conversation. So I think this is what you're seeing that now, because people are angry, and instead of doing something for themselves, they hitching their wagon to somebody else that's giving them an excuse to be angry. You know, I'm angry because I can't find a job. Yo, get up off your butt and go look for a job. You know, do like everybody else in America. My first job wasn't making a lot of money, but I knew I had bills to pay and stuff to do, so I took a job and I worked my way up. I didn't sit there and say, well, I'm not taking a job, so I'll land a job making 6 figures. Wow, because you got some leader out there already making 6 figures telling you hold out for the best because you deserve the best. I mean, so again, you know, it's self-interest. I'm looking out for myself, you know, and I have charisma. You know, I have a title, and there's a certain people, you know, my brother Mike used to always say this to me all the time, and I used to kind of debate it, and now I agree with him. He said, you know, Chris, people are sheep. Most people are sheep, and they're waiting to be led.
Yes.
And he's never been more true. Until I look around now and see the stuff I see today.
It's 1,000 times worse.
They just wait, and I'm full of excuses.
It's always been like that.
It's not, I'm taking no responsibility for something I did.
Mm-hmm.
It's always someone else's fault.
Yeah.
No responsibility. So when you do that, it's easy for somebody to come in and lead you on that path because they just feed the narrative of, it's not your fault. Mm-hmm. It's not your fault.
Yeah. And then people just waiting around for people to come save them.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. You know, and I don't understand. I mean, I do understand because it's the easy way out. It's the easy way out. And there's no accountability in that way because nobody's challenging those guys, man. You know, who's challenging them?
On point.
You know, we all talk, but people still produce those records.
Yeah.
We definitely talking about rappers and everybody talking about how poison the idiot lady who's suing Fortnite because she got a 13 and 14-year-old kid who's addicted to the game, saying they not doing their homework. Well, the game clearly says you got to be 18 years old to play the game without parental consent. You bought the game for them. Yeah, so now you suing Fortnite. But that's America. You suing Fortnite instead of taking the game. Take the game away. But you suing Fortnite because you can't control your kids. So and then somebody's representing her. So there's no accountability.
Right.
And some leaders are going to come out and you know, we blame all, you know, we don't blame the gun manufacturers, but we're going to blame Fortnite.
Yeah.
You know, for the school.
Not make it successful.
And once one leader starts saying that, everybody's going to jump on that. We got to ban this. Why don't we work on getting the number of guns that's being out here in the street? Mm-hmm. This is destroyed. Why don't we pay our teachers more? All this stuff you talking about, what's wrong with this? Why don't you pay the teachers more? Stop paying them $40,000. They got to go and they worry about getting. I mean, there's so many things that because we listen to politics and leaders who shouldn't be leading us. Yeah. This whole fiasco with the Republicans, man. You can't even pick a leader, so what's going to happen in the next 4 years.
Yes.
You can't even decide who's going to lead. So I mean, but people sit back and watch it and they make excuses and they follow because they fall into this nonsense and they don't understand that. And now I'm talking about everybody that we've given leaders who shouldn't be leaders.
Yeah. I mean, this conversation has been great. I feel like we almost getting close to an end here. So it made me think about a song by Kendrick Lamar called Savior. Devin, I know you're familiar with it. And this was just ringing in my head because it's so prevalent today. But it said, Kendrick made you think about it, but he is not your savior. Cole made you feel empowered, but he is not your savior. Future said get a money counter, but he is not your savior. Ron made you give him flowers, but he is not your savior. And I think that is so prevalent and powerful to me because it's we put people on this pedestal, and once they're there, people look to them for anything and everything. To your point, they waiting to follow somebody.
That's a perfect analogy because I think, and again, this is my humble opinion. I think what we're seeing today is you have religion when it comes to Christianity and faith and different things, and you hear people say that's filling a void in my life. And there's some people who don't want to follow that, so they're choosing these other things. To your point, these other things are becoming their savior. I don't believe in Jesus Christ, but I believe in LeBron James. And I think you're seeing people idolize, put these false idols up and believe in things because it gives them temporary relief.
Yeah.
When I was poor, I didn't feel good because I was watching somebody else that had money. I don't get that from people. I'm living my dreams from somebody else. That's bull crap because you're still hungry.
Right.
You still don't have. But we produce a generation of people now. I hear that all the time. Well, I can't be like that, but I'm living. No, you're not.
Yeah.
And I think exercise, like I said about doing the obituary. When I went back to get my master, I had to write a writing assignment that changed my life. The obituary did it when I was in college, but I had a professor who said we had to write our lives from 0 to 20, from 21 to 85, and you had to write it. So 0 to 20 was kind of easy because you wrote what you remembered, but the 21, once you got to your age, you had to start thinking about your future. But it also made you really reflect on your life. Many people don't do that, and people who these false leaders, they count on that. Because if you don't go back and look over your life and see the mistakes and stuff you made, it's easy to start blaming other people instead of looking at the role you played.
Right.
Racism is fueled by that. You're uneducated, you haven't no skills, but the black person's still on your job. When I used to work with this guy, the Mexicans, like, dude, you ain't cutting nobody grass, you ain't washing nobody dishes. What you talking about? They ain't still on our job.
We
be sitting there eating lunch. And they take. What do you mean taking over the cut? You're not doing that. You're not doing that. And they be sitting there getting all right. What you getting the lather for? You ain't washing nobody dishes. You ain't. So what are you talking about? They making a living doing stuff that you don't want to do, which is why they're here. Yeah. But he's heard that so much, and it's in his brain, and so because some leader, some politician who shouldn't be there, has embedded that thought process, and he does it. But what they don't understand is leaders love it when we fight each other because we miss the big picture.
Yeah.
And we can close on that. They do. So that's why whether it's black, white, whatever you want to call, when we're fighting against each other, we miss the big picture. We're not dealing with voters' rights. We're not dealing with an educational system that's a school to prison pipeline. We're not dealing with the fact that our kids graduate at the lowest rate but go to prison at a higher rate.
Yeah.
We don't. That's the issues we're not dealing with because we have these so-called leaders who really shouldn't be leaders. And I'm not looking to LeBron. He does a great job in Ohio. I'm not looking to LeBron James to fix the school system here in Cheltenham and Philadelphia. That's not his job.
Right. Yeah, local leader.
He's doing what he's doing. And we. That's what I mean. These leaders, but we got to stop doing that.
Not your savior.
But that was an excellent analogy because we do that. We make these leaders our saviors, and they know it. And then I know it's time to close because to your point, they may not have a brand like a LeBron James, but everybody's building a brand now.
Yeah.
Everybody's trying to build a brand, and unfortunately, that brand becomes a driving force behind the decisions they make. So I sell everybody out.
Yeah, and I don't want to take credit for that. That was Kendrick Lamar.
No, but I'm saying I don't know the song, but it was a good analogy.
But it's a good. That's the whole thing
yeah,
behind the song. Really, is like I think people just be wanting to believe in something in someone so bad, and it's like if that's believe in God.
Yeah. But the problem is, or the issue is when you believe in accountability.
That's what I said. Believe in God.
But that's why people don't want to believe because there becomes an issue of accountability. Because now all of a sudden, I can't do wacky, crazy stuff. And because I do believe, and even it's easy to say believe in yourself, but most people, and it's a whole other show.
Yeah.
If you don't know who you are, how do you believe in yourself?
You got to do some soul searching, and it's hard to do.
Yeah,
you take accountability and look
in the face to face with yourself. I think that is another show. We'll save that for the next.
So this is why we just shot past, man. This hour shot past, man. We had.
I was happy to be back.
Happy to have you back, bro. This 2-seat thing, man. Devin was excited last week because he got to sit in the middle. And you got to do your part.
Listen, next time you can take it.
I'll hold it down.
I'll switch. I'll do the last part.
He was the host, man. He sat in the middle, man. He asked the questions. He directed the whole show last week.
I'll take a step back. I'll take a step back. Relieve me of my big brother duties.
Yeah, man. But we're back, man, and we greatly appreciate each and every last one of you, man. We had a great time in Florida, though. I got to make sure.
Yeah,
out there, man.
Wonderful time.
But look for us this year, 2023, as we take the show on the road.
Yeah,
we got several dates coming up, man. That we're actually going to be on the road.
If you think it's somewhere we need to be, let us know. You got anybody that we need to talk to?
Yeah,
send them our way. Again, you comment, questions. We will get back to you.
Hit us up on Above Average Black Man. That's A2BM on Instagram and all other platforms.
And look for our new shirts. They're going to be coming out soon.
Yes.
I need a tank.
I was just thinking that.
I got to show off the summer body.
We don't do tanks because I don't wear tanks. Since I'm designing apparel, we don't do tanks. But
2 verse 3.
2
verse 1.
But we want to thank you guys for another great show, man. Wayne and all the other guys out there listening, man, to another episode of Average Black Men. Make sure you tell somebody. Same time, same channel next week. iHeartRadio, Spotify, Podbean, Facebook Live, YouTube Live, and Instagram. And soon to be coming on Apple because
You hit them
and they
all,
made
bro.
me get an iPhone. So now I gotta go to Apple.
Take care, guys.
Like, follow, subscribe, share.
I can't believe you just said I hit them all, man.
Wait, you did? I was shocked. I was like, oh my gosh. Didn't miss one. Been saying it long enough. I like how I'm always sitting here last.
I'm gonna buy